Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your boy Kenny, and this is Triangle Blue Velvet Season 1, Episode 1, and the name of this episode is For Better or Worse. Man, I'm so glad that this show's out now, and just from the first episode, I can honestly say this show's a hit. I mean, it's great that we're actually getting to see, the deep complexities of Brandon and Jabril's relationship. And for one, I'm rooting for, Team Brandon and Jabril forever. So we're going to see how this all plays out. But this episode was really good. And before I start my review, let me start off by giving my love and condolences to everyone that was affected by Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Harvey, and Hurricane Jose. And if you can give relief or give support in any way you can, please do so. Also, subscribe to brtbtv.com. If you have not already done so, do it now. BRTBTV is growing, and their shows are becoming even more greater, and just the new ideas and the new projects that are coming in with BRTBTV is amazing. So you guys need to jump on right now and subscribe to brtbtv.com. As well, check out the Triangle Fan Club on Facebook to get everything, Triangle and BRTB-TV. You also get posts from the cast, and you also get updates from the creator, Cesar Williams. So definitely check out the Triangle Fan Club, but you need to subscribe to BRTB-TV.com. I mean, BRTBTV.com, I have to say, is probably the best, gay network, and they give, not only, great productions, but the cast are delivering great performances. So, yeah, hop on. Alright, so let me begin with this review. The episode opens up, Brandon and Jabril, our favorite couple. They're actually in therapy. And from the beginning, we can already see Jabril is not here for it. He's completely dismissive, not respondent, and just very. It's like he's just there, but mentally he's somewhere else. And this is really starting to upset Brandon. So Brandon excuses the therapist, because I think the therapist's name is Dr. Jim. Brandon pretty much excuses him so he can go out and talk to Jabril alone, because Jabril is just not participating. But while they're out in the hallway, Dr. Jim gets a call, or he calls out to Dr. Sharon, and he's talking about Jabril, that of course, saying that he's a douchebag, and he doesn't even really want to be here, but I'll take their money, but I don't see nothing's going to come out of this. And I'm thinking, isn't this a breach of patient confidentiality? I'm just saying, and due to the fact that Sharon and Jabril do know each other, and she's now being fed information about their therapy session, I don't know. That might come back to play later, but it just didn't sit well with me. So while they're out in the hallway, Brandon and Jabril, get into it, and Brandon's like, "Look, you here? You said you was gonna try. What the hell is going on with you?" And Jabril's like, "No, you forced me to be here." And he's like, "Look, you said you was going to go through with the therapy, so actually be a part of the therapy and let's make this work." So afterwards, they go back in, and Dr. Jim does this exercise with them where he makes them face each other, and he flips a coin, heads or tails. When it's heads, they have to say something that they like about each other, and when it's tails, they have to say something that they dislike about each other. So the first time it's heads, and Jabril starts off, and he pretty much says, "Well, the good thing about you, Brandon, is that you see the good in me. Regardless of all the craziness that I've done, you still see the good inside of me." Very good, profound point. When it came down to, on Brandon's turn, he said that, you're very selfless and you're caring, and a lot of people don't see, that quality about you, but I do. So I thought that was really good. And then when they flipped the coin again, it was heads. It was heads a second time. Brandon pretty much tells him that he likes that that Jabril shows effort, to correct his mistakes. That regardless of how messed up things get, Jabril is always there to try to mend fences and to solve the problems. So he said that he liked that quality about Jabril. Jabril says that what he likes about Brandon is that he don't choose sides. He chooses to remain neutral and lets people, sort out their situation. He doesn't pick sides. Oh, I'm gonna be this person, I'm gonna be team this person or team that person. You actually sit back and you actually let the truth be revealed. So I thought that was really good. Then it finally, the third time after flipping the coin, it landed on tails. And Brandon starts off, and he tells Jabril that, look, you're stubborn, and, sometimes your stubbornness becomes too much to deal with, and that, if you actually use communication, things could actually move along better. So that was what Brandon said. Jabril pretty much said that the problem is that you don't talk to me. And it's not fair, and it's how can you expect us to solve anything if you don't talk to me and if you don't communicate to me? And they was about to get into it, but Dr. Jim pulled them back. He's like, no, this is not about responses. You have to take what your partner says and, actually hear them for their truth and not be combative. So he stopped that real quick. Then they flip the coin again, and the fourth time, and it lands on heads. And pretty much with that, Jabril pretty much says that he likes Brandon because he faces challenges, even when things get bad, he still gets back at it. And he refers this to when Brandon was trying to get his cosmetology license. He failed the first time, but what he admired about him is that he kept working at it. He studied more. He did hair, and even did hair for free just to get the experience. And then he finally got his license. So he said that he admires that quality about him. That when faced with a challenge, he's gonna go at it until he succeeds, which is a great quality. And then what Brandon said, which I thought was very interesting, was that you showed me Jabril Anderson first. Because we definitely know from season 1, Jabril was not going by Jabril Anderson Davenport. He was going by Jabril Anderson. And we can definitely tell that Jabril Anderson and Jabril Anderson Davenport are two totally different people. Same guy, but different personalities, and different complexities. And he says that, and then Brandon was like, yeah, this was before, the work, before family, before business, and before money. I actually liked you from the core. Because Jabril Anderson is who he is at the core, and that's who Brandon initially fell in love with. And it's just like the Davenport influences came in, and everything changed. So, due to the fact that their therapy session is about to come to a close, Dr. Jim asks them, tell each other what is your biggest regret in regards to your relationship. Jabril says that my biggest regret is letting my family come back into my life and letting them get in between what we had. And then Brandon's response was that I regret telling you to give it a try. So we definitely see that they're starting to connect now, and I have to say, Kenyon O'Brien and Dominique Smith are great actors. They are very good because they know how they can really speak, volumes just with their facial expressions. And you can tell from their facial expressions, that love between Brandon and Jabril is still there. It's just that they have all this mess that they have to sort through. So the next scene, we see Brandon's back at the house, and Allura comes in. Shout out to Emil Khalil. Love her. She's a great actress and very beautiful. Allura comes there looking for Jabril, but she sees Brandon there, and she obviously sees that Brandon is distraught and he's frustrated. And he opens up to Allura and lets her know that, look, Jabril is not participating in the therapy, because they had 3 sessions where Jabril was not participating at all. And this session that we just witnessed was pretty much I think their fourth session, and Jabril is just now starting to communicate. So Brandon's like, yeah, he communicated today, but he's just not really into it, and it's really starting to stress him out. But what Allura does is that she actually sits down and she talks to him, and they really start opening up to each other. And Brandon starts talking about his addiction, his mom passing, school, the in-laws, and and he's saying that like all this stuff came in, and it just completely just took me and Jabril's relationship down a path that he didn't want to go. And and then like pretty much Allura's like, look, the challenge really is to manage stress. Take what you need and let the rest of the crap go. And he also lets her know that he actually likes her and that she's probably the realest family member he has. And she's like, oh really? And Brandon's like, you haven't met your family? And she's like, oh yes, they have. They pretty much have outlandish demands and outlandish thoughts as far as their reputation. But she's like, at the end of the day, I don't even pay that no mind. So, because we actually see that, yeah, Allura's a Davenport, but she really is a good-natured person, and she has a very good spirit. And then he starts talking about the loss of his mother, and she can relate because she lost her father. So they both have that commonality that they know what it's like to lose a parent and the pain and trauma that comes with that. And he was saying that, like when people say things like, sorry for your loss, it just makes me so angry because it doesn't bring her back and it doesn't make the pain go away. And she talks about, the repast after her father died, all these people was up in there, drinking, eating, and laughing, and she said it made her sick to her fucking stomach. And she was saying that, and the funny thing about it, my father wouldn't have been okay with this crap, and besides, he ain't like half of these assholes that was there anyway. So she can relate to like that grief and the things that comes with it, especially when you lose a parent. And Brandon was talking about she had cancer, and I put myself in this fake security that she was going to be okay, but we know that she had her last episode when Brandon and Jabril were on their honeymoon. And he said that he really wasn't prepared to deal with the loss of his mother because he thought that she's beaten it time and time again, that she was going to beat it, and he didn't think that she would actually succumb to her illness. But then, Allura lets him know that, look, it takes a long time to heal, but, keep up the fight. But she says that one thing I do know about Jabril about my cousin is that he does love you. And then she says, I'm going to talk to Jabril and kind of get him on the path because Brandon feels kind of defeated because he feels that Jabril has already checked out on their relationship and he's just kind of like biding time. And besides, he also feels some kind of way because Jabril has been spending a lot of time at the office, to avoid him. So we actually see that they hug it out, and it was actually a beautiful scene between Allura and Brandon. Then afterwards, we see Allura finally runs into Jabril at the office. Jabril, pretty much on the request of Tessa, has been still checking up on things under the radar and unbeknownst to Baron. So he's still been, tying some fences in the company, even though he's been outed as CEO. So Allura runs into Allura. He's like, where have you been, woman? And she's like, look, I went to your house looking for you. And he's like, yeah, that's the last place I want to be. And he also says that she actually, says like, look, we should check in. Because Jabril was trying to leave, but Allura wasn't having it. She's like, bro, you're not just going to walk away from me. You need to check in. What's going on with you? And he's saying that, he lets her know that he's been tying some loose ends, which is the reason why Allura's there, is to help Jabril work out certain business moves because he's outed from the company, but he's still, in the company, incognito. And he's using Allura to help him make certain moves and to, handle certain business actions. So, pretty much, just with that, he also opens up about Jarrell and saying that, right now his condition hasn't changed. He's still in the coma. And we see that is really tearing up, Brandon. That's what's also tearing up Jabril as well, is that, we definitely saw that in season 3 of Triangle, that Jarrell had got shot. So we see that, Brandon has his, grief that he's dealing with, and then we see that Jabril is also dealing with the grief, dealing with, the possible, dealing with the injury and the critical condition of his brother. So we see that going on. But then pretty much what Allura does is that she really gets Jabril together. She lets him know that, look, I just had a conversation with Brandon. You need to cut the bullshit, and you need to take this therapy seriously. And he's like, and like Jabril's like, come on, no, I ain't really. And she's like, See, yeah, Brandon may have done his share of problems within this marriage, but you're not innocent in this. So you need to take it seriously. He's like, well, He's like, no. She's like, no, you need to take it seriously, and you need to really see it through. And if at the end of it, if it doesn't work out, I'll support you, with you getting a divorce. But no, right now you need to make this. You really need to take this seriously and try to see through the process of you and Brandon's relationship. And then they start talking about Lawrence, and it's like, oh, Lawrence is a douchebag. So I was glad that Allura checked Jabril and let him know that you being, dismissive and not taking it seriously is not cool, because you may be trying to end it, but yet you really got something good. So you need to go through the process to see whether your relationship is worth saving. So I thought that was great. Then we get a scene with Brandon and Jabril. We see that Brandon and Jabril are sleeping in separate rooms. They pretty much talk, where Jabril's like, look, my family coming between our relationship, I want to let you know that was never my intention, and I never did that directly. And then they pretty much saying that, and then pretty much Brandon was like, yeah, and I'm sorry that I allowed this whole Davenport thing get to me, because, me changing my career and all that was hoping that they would actually look at me with smiles instead of looking at me with shame. And then Jabril's like, you don't have to prove shit to any of them. And Brandon's like, neither do you. We both got caught up in this whole Davenport, allure, that we had to live up to this high expectation. And we see that has kind of, gotten in the way of their, that's what got in the way of their marriage. And, Jabril was like, I wanted to be there for you, Brandon, but every time I tried, you kept fighting me. And he was like, I'm sorry, but then he says that, look, I'm still feel the way I feel about getting a divorce, but I'm going to go through the therapy, and I'm going to give it, and I'm going to, go through it. But he says, but then he's asking Brandon that, look, if it doesn't work out, can you give divorce a try? And Brandon was like, hell no. And I'm like, yes, Brandon, I'm not for the divorce either. But but then he says that, look, he's going to participate in the process, and that he's going to try to see it through. So then after that, Brandon asks, can he watch TV with Jabril? And Jabril's like, yeah, sure. And it's like, you can try to see Jabril's facial change. Kenyon O'Brien is a good actor. As I was saying before, he gives like the best facial expressions. Like, you can read Jabril based off the way he looks, because his facial expressions speak volumes. So they watching TV, they end up falling asleep. We see that Brandon begins, Jabril is asleep, and Brandon wakes up and begins to make moves on Jabril. He starts kissing, and Brandon starts And Jabril starts kissing him back. And I was like, ooh, getting back to love, baby. But then Jabril stopped him and was like, look, I'm not down with this right now. That's the reason why we're in separate rooms. So I'll go with the therapy, but that's as far as it's going right now. So Brandon was definitely upset about that. And I have to admit, so was I, because I'm really rooting for the two of them to get back to that love. But as I said before, there's a lot of stuff they have to go through. So next we see that they have another session with Dr. Jim, and he has another exercise for them. The exercise is that he wants them to go on a blind date. Immediately, Brandon's like, you mean with other people? And he's like, no, I want you to go on a blind date with each other. You know, I want you guys to meet each other as if it's like it's the first time you're meeting one another. You know, without no lies, no secrets, be completely transparent, and be an open book with each other. Because if anything, this will actually open up the door of communicating and also understanding each other. So therefore, just have fun with this. And Brandon was like, this sounds interesting, and Jabril was like, man, this sounds dumb. And then like Dr. Jim was like, just do it. Yeah, because Jabril is really fighting it. But then we actually get the next scene. They're actually on the blind date. We see that Brandon starts off, hi, I'm Brandon. I'm here on the blind date. And Jabril is like, you have lost your mind. And she's like, nice to meet you too. It was like, I thought that was really cute. So they start asking questions. Like, he asks Jabril where he's from. Jabril says he's from Georgia. Brandon's from Washington, D.C. Shout out to the DMV, baby. Yeah, so I was like, okay. And then like Jabril's like, oh yeah, my family has companies there. And he lets him know that his family's company is Davenport Industries, and that he was the former CEO. And Brandon talks about he's just getting over. He's still going through losing his mom to cancer, and then he starts asking about Jabril's childhood. Jabril says that, yeah, I grew up in this family with my stepmother and my dad, but they didn't really raise us. We were literally raised by nannies and other employees of the company. And he's like, wow, that sounds something like on the TV and the movies, the rich families. And he's like, yeah, you could say that. But then Brandon asks, what about your birth mom? And he was saying that, well, technically, because he's like, what you mean birth mom? He's like, well, you said your stepmother and your dad raised you. What about your real mother? And then Jabril lets him know that, look, well, my mom, I'm actually a bastard because my father, cheated on my stepmother with my mom. And what they did is that they pretty much strong-armed her, and they ended up getting full custody of me after I was born. So he definitely talks about, Corinne, but then he also talks about him meeting Corinne and his brother Jarrell, and he said that, things were, kind of rocky at first, but, things got better down the line, but then he also talks about, his relationship with his brother, and that, at first it was slow, but then they really got very close. And then Brandon was like, so tell me about your love life. He's like, oh, we're going to need some drinks for that. And all of a sudden, Brandon was like, okay, waiter. So I love that scene. And again, the facial expressions, we can see on Jabril's face that he's happy with this. And that there's this sense of relief it's a sense of relief and happiness that he's feeling now for Brandon again. So they're driving home. They're pretty much in good spirits. They're talking with each other. This is a good night. We had a good time. And we actually see there's some strange man hanging out in front of their house. And then like Brandon was like, I wonder who this is, Jabril. Is it one of your hoes? and so they get out of the car and they ask like, yo, who are you? And he was like, my name's August, I'm here to talk to you. and he was talking to Brandon, and he was like, you know, and then he's like, okay, what are you doing here? He's like, well, I want to let you know that we're related. And he's like, well, I don't know about no relative named August. I ain't never heard about you or nothing. So why are you here, and what's going on? And he's like, look, it's complicated. You know, I'm from Oklahoma. Can I come inside and we can talk about this? He's like, oh, hell no, you ain't coming inside. I don't know you. And he's like, look, I really need to explain this. Can we go inside? And he's like, look. Brandon's like, look, you need to talk now because I don't know about no relative named August. I never heard of you. So what's this all about? So finally, August comes forward and says, well, Brandon, I'm your brother. And Brandon cracked up laughing, and he was just like, what the fuck? Because we know Brandon has a sister. We never heard about Brandon having a brother. So all of a sudden, this dude just shows up on your doorstep and say, I'm your brother? Yeah. The wheels start turning. So Brandon just cracked up, and Jabril's face is just like, what the fuck did we just come home to? And that's where the episode ended. So we find out Brandon has a brother, and we're probably going to find out more down the line. But I can say I'm so here for this show because it's definitely going to show, you know, we're pretty much going to see, like, you know, Brandon and Jabril, you know, get back to either love or they're going to end it. And I'm rooting for love. So that's what I have, guys. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments. I'd love to talk to you about it. But, yes, subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you can get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, I started a GoFundMe. You know, definitely check that out in the description box as well as subscribe to BRTB TV, like I said earlier in this episode. Yeah. So, but also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I will be back with the next episode of Triangle Blue Velvet. So until then, everybody, take care.